Hi, this is Praios and I'm a professional gambler. Today I want to talk about fast forward poker, or Zoom how it's called on PokerStars, and how you could very efficiently beat the games. This will be in two parts. First I will give my own thoughts, and in the second part of the video we will watch another pro player give his tips. Let's see how much overlap is there and which tips are better. So let's go. So first tip, only play in good pools. This also means that most of the time you will not be playing at all. The Zoom pools, at least on stars, are notoriously very bad. Often they are like 40 racks battling each other, and we obviously don't want that. And yeah, or it's like a very bad ratio, like 2 recreational players on 50 other racks or 50 other entries, and that's also not optimal unless these are huge whales. I also know the issue. I mean, I also played so much Zoom just because I usually play in the morning and then there are almost no games available. And then just off boredom I play Zoom. But the win rate in normal games with good game selection will be way better. And yeah, but I played there out of boredom. For me, it's not that bad because I still have a positive win rate. I think it was even like 5 BB per 100 or something, but not everyone can achieve this win rates. And people might be winning in normal games with good game selection, but lose in Zoom. So keep that in mind when you jump into Zoom pools. So now the second advice is leave once the pool gets bad. I mean, that's quite self-explanatory. Often the pool dries up and then you should leave the table when it's not profitable anymore or not much money to be gained. The third tip would be to analyze your frequent opponents or other racks. This can be done with Holdem Manager or Pokertracker. These are great tracking tools and everyone should use that, and it is so helpful on the table but also off the table. You can look into your own results and also the results of your opponents, find leaks and then exploit them on the table. And in Zoom games this is even be more effective because people usually don't pay that much attention. They just want to go to the next hand, they play very fast, they play a lot of hands, and then they might not even recognize when you exploit them. So yeah, highly recommended to look into your opponent's leaks and then exploit them. Okay. Next tip. A good HUD is recommended to play the best you can against your competition. The standard HUD usually looks like 3 stats or something, like VP, IP, preflop raise, and 3-bet, and that's it. I recommend to have a huge HUD, something like shown here on the picture. And you should also, if you go on, let's say, 3-bit, for example, you should have a very detailed pop-up prepared as well. By the way, in the description or under my Twitch, you will also find links to Holdem Manager and Pokertracker and other tools. And if you want to sign up, this would help me a lot. Yeah, it's costing the same, but I get a small commission as I'm affiliated with them. Okay, next one. Pay attention to Zoom-specific exploits, especially massive multitablers, grinders. What I mean by that is these guys pay even less attention. They play so many tables and they just play ABC all the time. So against them, they often also have like standard leaks, like using the old auto-fold button way too much. Often against these guys you can steal with every single hand from the small blind because they first fold too many hands in the big blind, and second they also have the tendency to fold too much against continuation bets. So against these grinder type guys who have 4 Zoom tables or maybe even 8, who are just going to the next hands and downplay the hands with just a little EV. Against them, it's very profitable to steal post-flop and pre-flop as well. Yeah, I think the next tip is very similar. So don't play ABC all the time. and try to play perfectly. Although it's Zoom and you can get to the next hand very quickly. Very many people have the habit to click this fast forward button, which you can see here, all the time. And then, yeah, the hand is over. And maybe you missed an opportunity, like mentioned before, for example. Everyone folds to you, you are in the small blind, the big blind folds all the time. And you can steal any 2 or any 4, depending on if you play No Limit Hold'em or Pot Limit Omaha, profitable. And then, yeah, you missed, you are giving away money. Or if 2 of these very tight guys are behind you, you don't want to fold the button but you can open with almost any hand, as they don't defend enough and don't 3-bet enough. Yeah, so that are my tips. How do I get out of this? I think I have to click escape. Okay. Yeah, I hope you liked that. Took me some time to prepare this presentation. Let's now move on to the video of Saulo Costa. Never heard of him, but the video definitely looks interesting. According to this thumbnail, he made almost 200K on Zoom. And yeah, let's see what his tips are and if I agree or disagree with him.
This is my mid-stakes Zoom graph. Isn't it beautiful? About 1.5 million hands at almost 5 big blinds per 100 of EV in win rate. In this video, I'm going to give you 3 tips on how I think you can improve your game to achieve a higher win rate. And it doesn't matter whether you play Zoom or not, this is going to apply to all poker formats. Alright, let's dive into it. The first tip I'm going to...
Yeah, by the way, the tips I gave also apply to other formats too.
Give in this video on how I think you can improve your win rate to achieve a lot of success both at Zoom and also regular tables is to be very solid mentally. This is something that people don't pay enough attention to, and most regs are just trying to get better technically, but they don't pay attention.
I hope that's not the very basic video, because this starts off very basic. And yeah, this is just a tip. It works always. It works in any industry, and yeah, whatever.
To how they're performing mentally. And with this, I'm talking about stuff like getting tilted because you're running bad, getting overconfident because you're running pretty good, getting into ego wars against other regs, and like forcing aggression, all that kind of stuff that really is going to kill your win rate if you don't pay attention. Now, luckily for me...
Yeah, I agree. I guess the psychological thing in poker is often overlooked, and if you are not psychological very good as well, on top of playing very good, you will not make it, because yeah, if you tilt and cannot stick to your A game and always play B game or even C game, you are not gonna make it. So yeah, good tip, but very standard.
I've never had to try and improve this. I was always naturally very good mentally. I almost never got tilted. I almost never got...
I was the opposite, I have to say. I was getting tilted very easily in the beginning. I mean, I played Counter-Strike when I was like 18, and I got so angry when someone gave me a headshot. I was banging on my mouse and even destroying some keyboards, smashing them. When I had the impression that some guy got lucky all the time against me. But once I started playing poker, I got very good at it as well. But in the beginning, I had some tilt issues. But yeah, definitely get this under control if you want to be a solid winner.
Into ego wars, and you would rarely see me spew at the tables. And I think this is a great advantage that I've had over the years compared to the other regs.
I think a huge issue is not... I mean, most professional poker players don't go on monkey tilt or something like that. The issue is when people getting annoyed and angry, they just don't play A game anymore. And that is also bad. If you always slide into B game or even C game, your win rate will hurt a lot. So try to avoid that as well.
Because I would see constantly other regs getting into ego wars, making stupid plays like really big call downs or really big bluffs in spots where they shouldn't do that, but they convince themselves they should because of some emotional reaction they had towards the game.
Yeah, sometimes there's like strange dynamics between guys, and it could be justified to do that, or they had like some read that he is not aware of. But yeah, in general, ego wars are very bad, and you should not get cocky and overconfident. This is especially true if you play something like heads up, because in heads up, if you think you are the better guy and the other guy thinks he's a better guy, one of you obviously is wrong. And if you cannot give up and yeah, comprehend what is happening on the table, if you are the one losing and you're losing over a huge sample, you are probably the one worse and you should quit. But if you are overconfident, you might just think that this is because of bad luck, and you continue playing and and lose, in the worst case, all your money or way too much
in that situation. So I think if you can be very solid mentally and be very stable with your strategy, never make any huge mistakes, you're going to be at a huge advantage. Of course, this is much easier said than done, and the way I think you can improve on this is by improving your theoretical understanding of the game. This is something that has helped me over the years to avoid making those really stupid plays, because once I knew that what I was about to do was really bad theoretically, that would be enough to refrain myself from taking that intuition or taking that reaction to make that play. So I think if you spend your time improving your theoretical understanding of the game, you're gonna have a better intuition of which plays are...
Yeah, true. If you want to be good at poker nowadays, you need solvers. For No Limit Holdem, this would be, for example, PLO Solver. Or for PLO, the game of my choice, this would be the PLO Trainer, which you can see here. Or PLO Vision. Also links in the description. And yeah, if you want to push your game to the next level, and if you want to have high ambitions in poker, no way around that, you need to learn GTO nowadays. GTO, by the way, stands for Game Theory Optimal Play.
Really bad and which plays are really good, and then you're going to be able to avoid making those super bad plays. Of course, there are a lot of other tips and tricks that I could give to improve your performance at the tables.
As we are seemingly into fundamentals, obviously you need a good understanding and knowledge of all the concepts in poker, like outs and odds, for example, solid starting hand fundamentals. I mean, this can also be learned from the solver, but outs and odds, for example, is an important one. Or pot to stack ratio is also another very important concept.
I'm not gonna get into this because it's not the point of the video, but you can try stuff like playing shorter sessions, meditating, warming up before the session, all the kind of stuff that you probably already have heard of, and that can help you have a stable session or be more present mentally in order to not...
He's mixing up things, by the way. I mean, meditation should be mentioned in the mentality thing and not in the theoretical understanding. But okay.
Make mistakes. But this first tip is really important. Don't neglect the mental part of the game. Don't neglect how you are mentally in terms of performance, because this could easily be the reason why you're still not achieving the success you think you could have.
I also very much like his background. But this is just his studio or something, because no way he's playing poker on this small laptop. If he is, respect.
Achieved. Now, let's get into the more important tips here. The third tip is the best one, but the second tip is also extremely valuable, and this is put pressure in unexpected spots. This is something that I've done over the years, and I think quite well, and that has allowed me to extract a little bit of edge in spots where most people are not really putting a lot of effort to extract EV. And I'm gonna give you guys a few hidden history.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm not entirely sure what he means by this, but he will give some examples, so let's see.
Examples here that I played over this sample that I showed you, and hopefully this is going to inspire you to find some of these spots in your own games. Okay, so let's get into it. So I have 4 hands marked here, all at 500 zoom, and you know, there are probably a lot more that I could show you here, but I selected these ones that I think can really highlight what the concept really is about. So I got pocket 9s here on the button. I 3-bet this reg, opening from the cutoff. He decides to 4-bet me, and here you have to call with pocket 9s in these positions. He goes ahead and fires a quarter pot c-bet on the flop. I got nines with the spade, so I think I can float here. I'm not necessarily sure whether it's a pure float or not. I think that without a spade, you should probably mostly fold here. But I call here with the 9 of spades. Turns a 10. He checks. I go ahead and check. And then the river is the 3 of spades. He goes ahead and blocks. Now this is a spot where I really think you can call it an expected spot to face aggression, because it's a 4-bet pot, it's a paired board, and it's a flush card completing river. So people are not really going to perceive you as being ultra aggressive here, having too many bluffs. So what I decided to do here is attack his small bet and shove all in with the pocket nines. And I'm
not sure how much I like this one. Might even be bluffing with the best hand. Not a no-limit hold'em expert, but yeah, I mean, if your opponent is weak and his... I would read the situation the following way. I would expect my opponent to have maybe a little something that he wants to go to showdown with. But raising also is sort of transparent, because yeah, it's obvious that he's not the strongest and you might just capitalize on this and he might make a hero call. So you're not sure if this is a good play or not. Your opponent might also be just having a pure bluff or something and you're just bluffing with the best hand. So don't like this one too much. But yeah, in general, I guess I think I know what he means. In spots, put your opponent in uncomfortable spots in which they don't train a lot. I mean, pre-flop, it's hard to put people into uncomfortable spots nowadays, but if you use some uncommon sizings, for example, they does not have trained this and you force them to make mistakes. Or on the river, people in general don't train enough on the river or on the turn, or also on later streams in general. The pot is already big and there you can force them to mistakes. I guess that's a better advice than whatever he's talking about.
I'm trying to make him fold here. I'll hand like pocket jacks or something like a queen jack, king queen type hand, and I can represent.
Yeah, I think he has something like in that type. But he could find the hero call, because yeah, he could also expect him to float quite wide on the flop, and he might also expect him to shove it in quite light on the flop. So yeah, don't like this play.
Plenty of very strong hands here. I can have pocket aces with the spade. I can have some slow play 10x on the turn. Mostly ace 10, I think I would slow play here, but also some flushes, of course. I'm gonna have plenty of flushes here, like ace jack of spades, ace queen of
ace jack of spades might get in on the not pre-flop, on the flop, I think. So
spades, stuff like that. Queen jack of spades, I can check back on the turn. So I can represent plenty of very strong hands here, and villain's not going to expect me to have too many bluffs in the spot, and he's likely to let go of his bluff catchers. Let's see a second example. I have jack nine of clubs here on UTG. I open. This reg calls from the big blind. Here comes this 8-5 deuce board. I go ahead and c-bet. He calls. Turns a 6 of clubs, like I make a flush draw with the gutter. I go ahead and fire 3/4 here, or something like 2/3. He goes ahead and raises here, quite large, a little bit over pot size raise. And with this hand, I don't think it can fold with the flush draw and the gutter. I think naked flush draws are close to indifferent here, but a flush draw with the gutter, I think I have to call.
Standard so far, I would say.
Then river comes the 6 of hearts, and again he goes ahead and fires here a small bet, just like in the example before.
So another example of attacking block bets, or what is this?
And this is another situation where his range is full of middling strength hands. So he's gonna have hands like 4-3 suited, 7-4 suited.
Seems like he's the guy against whom it makes a lot of sense to block bet to induce a raise.
9-7 suited here, plenty of straights here. Certainly he's gonna have a little bit of full houses, like I think 6-5 he can have in pocket sixes for quads. But in terms of number of combinations, I think he has way more straights than he has full houses here, and not many flushes, because he's not gonna check raise a naked heart on the turn, and a lot of his hard combos are blocked by the board. So I think here he's gonna have way too many straights, and this is a situation where if he looks at my range, or if he tries to hand read me, it's really unlikely that I can show up here with the bluff, right? I have...
Yeah, that's true. It's really hard to show up with a bluff, given how this played out. Yeah, unless the hand he has, or something like clubs. Yeah.
Maybe a few missed draws, like with the few missed clubs with the 7 or a 9. But other than that, I'm just gonna have flushes, full houses, and some overpairs with the heart. So he bets here. I go ahead.
Yeah, but overpairs also don't raise the river, so he can immediately rule them out.
And jam, and he folds. So this is a spot where I really feel like people are not gonna call enough of their straights, and they're also probably not gonna put enough of their full houses and quads into this small size. So I really like...
Yeah, that's true. I also feel like a lot of people are quite unbalanced and stuff in spots like this, and block bet only the weaker part of their range, and then as an opponent you can put a lot of pressure on them.
Going for the aggression here on the river. We got this another example, 6-4 suited on the button. I open for 2.5x. The guy 3-bets really small here to 9 blind, so I decided to call this one. Against bigger size you can fold. Flop is 4-3-3. He goes ahead and bets a little bit over half pot. I'm gonna call here with the pair, of course. Here's a 9 of clubs. I'm gonna check behind. And then he goes ahead and fires again, half pot.
Oh, are all these pots the exactly same spot? Like a small river bet which he decides to bluff against? This is annoying.
On the river. So you see a pattern in these hands where that option player is mostly using some medium to small size here, which is generally used with middling strength hands and hands that...
This is, by the way, is also like more of an exploitative approach which he uses, not that much GTO focused, it seems.
that don't...
But I don't necessarily say that this is bad against many opponents. This is the right thing to do.
really want to face a lot of aggression. So on the top of putting pressure in unexpected spots, we're also targeting some middling strength hands that villains are going to have with these sizing sequences. So you guys ahead and bet the size, and here's a spot where, you know, what bluffs I can have here. Well, perhaps I can use a hand like ace queen off with a club. That's a decent bluff.
He also needs to be like quite tricky to have a flush. I mean that's true for most people because he checked back turn. So yeah, not sure how much I like this potential raise. I guess his opponent has something like tens.
But other than that, I can show up with a hand like ace 5 here, 6-5, pocket
ace
2s.
9.
I can have a slow played flush on the turn. So I have a lot of value combos here and not many natural bluffs. So I go ahead and jam with my 6-4, and he goes ahead and folds. I think he can bet fold here, a hand like naked 9x, pocket 8s, pocket 7s type hands. He's gonna have plenty of those hands with the size action. Last one, as an example here, I got pocket 10s on the button. This reg open.
I'm getting very tilted if he is again raising a small river bet in this one.
Opens from the hijack. I 3-bet here to 8 big blinds. He calls. Flop comes ace king 5, and when I revealed this hand here to prepare for the video, I found my sizing a little bit odd, but later I saw that it's actually a possible size to be used here on this board, although nowadays I would mostly use very tiny sizing on this double broad.
Yeah, it looks like bet small pot spot. I'm not a no-limit Holdem expert, but yeah, man, this favors him a lot, and he wants to continuation bet like anything, I guess. And then I would favor a small sizing, and you will have a lot of fold equity still.
Broadway, especially ace high double Broadway boards. I like to go something like 15% pot with my entire range, but having two sizes here is totally fine on this board. So I go ahead and fire about 60% pot here with my pocket tens. Villain calls, turns the 9 of diamonds. I go ahead and check my pocket tens, and then the river comes a queen.
Block us,
so having
baby.
two tens here is extremely awesome because I block the jack 10 suited combos that he could have. So he fires half pot and I just jam into his face and he folds. Theoretically, this is probably not the greatest bluff actually.
The thing also is he actually doing this with ace king, with kings, with aces? Is he checking back turn, really? So, well, yeah, whatever.
Now that I think about it, because probably should have some kind of queen blocker here. You want to block, not only you want to block the jack 10, of course, that's good, but mostly you want to block stuff like ace queen here. I think ace queen should be his most obvious bad calls, and therefore having a queen. And you could have like a queen 10 or queen jack that will both block the ace queen and the jack 10. But anyways, in this hand, I decided to go for it and I don't regret it. He just folded.
Yeah, obviously he's just results orientated, and that's why he's not regretting it.
And I won a big pot. So this is what I mean with putting pressure in unexpected spots. Be aggressive in situations that people don't expect you to be full of bluffs or trying to...
I mean, I guess any good player will expect you to be aggressive and bluff a lot when you sort of cap your range, or at least it looks like your range is capped when you're putting out such a small bet, and then it looks like you want to come to showdown cheaply. So this is a spot where I expect people to bluff quite a bit. So this is not the greatest example.
Too hard to fight for the pot, and therefore they're mostly going to be playing passively, and you're going to be able to capitalize on those tendencies. Now, last and most important tip for increasing your win rate and perhaps achieving a 5 big blind per 100 win rate in Zoom games or any game whatsoever is exploit the recreational players. This is something...
Exploit everyone, not just the recreationals, but yeah, the recreationals are easier to exploit because they are more playing less good and they are off optimal strategy quite a lot, usually when they play like 50% or even more of their hands. And they often have very bad tendencies post-flop as well. So yeah, it's easier to exploit people who don't know what they are doing.
That, I don't know why many regulars, many professionals actually neglect. They don't study enough how to play against recreationals. They spend...
I think people just don't know how to study this and how to train this, because they just have their nice solvers, but solver assume opponents who play perfectly as well, and that's why they are not training for these guys that play terrible. But yeah, it's also harder to make assumptions. You must make assumptions for your opponent and give them ranges and stuff, and that's not that easy to do. And if you put in wrong assumptions, you will get wrong ideas of what to do against this type of player. Not all people can do that. I mean, it's very easy with the solver. You put in your hands and see what you should do, given the range of the other optimal playing guy. But this is nothing against people who are way off optimal strategy. And yeah, I think many people don't know what to do. I personally know a lot of players which I even deem quite good, but don't train any don't train to play perfectly against the recs, not the recs, the recreational players, which they should, as this is where the most of the money is coming from.
99.9% of the time studying GTO strategies, or sometimes studying some reg that they admire, or even studying another reg that they want to exploit. But like 100% of their time almost is spent studying how to play against other regulars. But in poker, most of your win rate, most of your earnings in your winnings
I wonder if he shows how to do it. Probably not.
are going to come from the mistakes that recreational players make. So if you spend a little bit of time studying how to exploit them, you're going to be able to increase your earnings way more than if you spend time on GTO strategies or how to play against regs. Okay, so figuring out how to exploit recreational players is an extremely important part of your poker career. Regardless whether you're a cash game player or a tournament player, this is really crucial for maximizing your profits. And in this video, I'm just gonna show you a little bit of a glimpse of what I do to exploit recreational players. I try to exploit them in every single line that I can, in all streets from pre-flop to river, and I'm almost always going to be using a max exploit approach. So a max exploit approach is an approach where I'm just gonna try to figure out what's the highest EV play.
I think that can be bad because you are constantly pounding on someone or something like that. They will recognize and they might adjust, or most recreationals will recognize that. They also play less tables. So if you are overly aggressive against them, for example, they will recognize at some point. So yeah, I also had cases where I had one guy dialed down so much that I basically saw his cards, although I didn't saw his cards, but I always had a very good idea what he's doing and what he had. And this was not good, because once I came to the table, this guy always left and never played me again. This was a huge fish at the time. He was playing 5k no limit, 4 tables, all day, every day. Now, I mean, that's an exaggeration, but he played a lot, many hours, and almost every day. And I then couldn't play against him anymore, so this was quite annoying. But yeah, in general, good idea to exploit people. But sometimes the fish figure out that it's now enough, or assume that you are cheating or something and don't play you anymore. So that's the downside that could happen if you have someone really dialed down. In this case, it was someone who was not betting very thinly for value, but he was still quite aggressive, and he often also had lines or used lines that made it, that made me question if he could actually have something. And I had a lot of hero calls with like ace high and something against him, and was right quite often. And yeah, that's probably why he thought that I'm cheating or something, or he decided he does not want to play against me anymore. And yeah, but what I want to say, I guess, is pay very close attention to the tendencies of your opponents, especially the weaker ones that don't have a solid theoretical foundation, because you will find very big holes in their game. You can exploit them and make very good calls, very good folds, and all that stuff. And in general, this is even more true for recreational players. When they use a line that does not make sense, it's often time to click call.
With my hand, and I'm gonna do just that. So just play all situations in a vacuum. And the reason for this is because recreational players, not only they're not paying attention to how you're playing, they're also not...
I disagree. I think a lot of them pay attention. Especially because most of them just have one table. So they might even pay more attention, but they just have a playing style that is shit.
Going to be able to exploit you on further instances where you play against them, and it's actually very likely that you're not going to find them anymore after you play that hand, because they play very few hands. So the likelihood that you play against the same recreational player over the long term is really small, especially if you play low to mid stakes. Okay, so I'm just going to take whatever I think is the highest EV play with my hand, and I'm gonna do just that. Against recreational players, I really like exploiting the river bets. The river bets, and maybe you're gonna be surprised when I say this.
Also, another strategy, very important, especially against fish, is to look into every hand, even the ones that were not against you, but against other players, because you often can learn a lot and see how they think and what leaks they have. So don't only use hands which you are in, but also that other people played against them to collect more information on them and how to play perfectly against them. Because that will not be the GTO way.
The river bets is almost always severely overbluffed. This is something that contradicts some of what is the common knowledge about poker, about recreational players in the industry. And I remember when I started,
I think that's a thing you cannot say with certainty, because fish have very different playing styles. I mean, some are just like very passive dudes chasing a lot of stuff, but don't bluff. So they just checked down and they lost. So I think this is not a good general advice. Yes, true, a lot of them will bluff rivers with like busted draws once you give them the chance to. But yeah, I mean, I think they are just different player types. Like there could be like the maniac who's always very aggressive, then they're the loose passive guy that is passive, and people are different, and you cannot just say that. You need to look into their play, or even better, when you are not able to pay that close of attention. Holdem Manager, I already mentioned it. The tracking software will show you stats. You will be able to deduct how much they do or not down to. Pokertracker is the other program that is very useful. And yeah, highly recommended. Also, definitely customize your HUD and your pop-ups, because then you will only be able to get the maximum out of it. If you use the standard settings, this is not helping you that much. So definitely, I think I took like 3 days to customize my HUD, my pop-ups, but then I was able to play way better than I would be on my own, because this thing just recognizes and saves every hand and puts it into the sets. And yeah, this is a mistake even pros make. I think most, or not most, many does not have a customized HUD. Many does not look into stats enough. They just do their like GTO, ABC playing style, and they miss a lot of value. That's why you can, even in Zoom pools, have like 5 BB per 100. Because yeah, people just get to a certain level, like 1 or 2 BB win rate, and then they just grind and don't improve anymore. And yeah, this 1 BB guy needs to play 5 times the hands I play to make the same money. And yeah, time invested into theory would do very well.
people used to tell me that I shouldn't really call down very light against fishes because they don't bluff enough. And that cannot be farther from the truth. If you don't
Yeah, it's depending on the fish.
believe me, I hope that after you see these hands, you're gonna have at least some inclination to believe what I'm saying here, okay? So whenever you're...
My tip will be 4 times the same hand again. And always something like c-bet flop, then he checks back turn, and all draws misses, and then his opponent bets, the loose guy who likes to chase draws. Then he calls river with like second pair, and then he thinks that he did a genius play, which is standard. But let's see.
Playing against recreational players, and I'm gonna give you a few examples here, try to call them really light on the river, and trust me, you're gonna capture a lot of EV doing that. Okay, so let's jump here into Holdem Manager again. I'm gonna pull up a few hands that I marked, and I marked them under this tag here, which is one specific line I use to exploit recreational players that is really, really fun. I really love like exploiting them with this line.
Exactly what I was talking about.
I'm just gonna give you guys this example. Obviously, I exploit them on all lines that I can put my hands on or that I play against them. But I chose this one because it's a really nice one to show you what I mean with their crazy over bluffs. Okay, so this line that I'm gonna show you is a line when you are in a 3-bet pot out of position. You c-bet the flop, and the recreational raises you on the flop, And after they raise you on the flop, you call and then they barrel the next 2 streets. So they're really putting the aggression there, and we're
not what I was expecting.
actually not going to give up on the pot. We're going to just call them down with whatever hand we have. And a lot of people might have the intuition that
I think that's terrible advice against many fish. Because, yeah, the usual loose passive type opponent will just, like, yeah, never raise unless they have something, or almost never. And if they continue, we usually have a very strong hand. I think that's terrible advice. They have it way more often than not.
Recreational players are not gonna bluff with this line, but I've been studying population tendencies for the past 6 years in my life, and if there's one safe line for you to call down against recreationals,
maybe you should study some more, because in my experience, this is very strong.
Is this one. Okay, so let's see this first example. I got pocket ace on the small blind here. I 3-bet the recreational that opened from UTG, and he calls. I go ahead and c-bet small here on a Jack-Jack 5 board. I think that's good, correct strategy here. He goes ahead and clicks me. That's really funny. Recreationals do like to click, you know, a variety of spots. So he clicks me here. I'm gonna call, and then I'm already 100% expecting him to fire off the next 2 bullets, and I'm already decided that I'm not gonna fold on this hand. So I check.
It's also sort of a special case, like paired board. It's unlikely that someone has anything.
He fires half pot. I call. Rivers the deuce of diamonds. A lot of people might be afraid of diamonds here. I'm not afraid.
He also doesn't have a diamond. He's just like, okay, I put my opponent on complete air, and that's why I'm calling down. I mean, if you assume that your opponent at least needs a little something in order to bluff, you should not call this river. I mean, 6-4 got there, Ace-4 got there, a Jack had him beat all the time, and a flush also got there. So if he's at least bluffing with some equity, like semi-bluffs, like an open-ender, although, yeah, the open-ender wasn't present at the flop, so forget about the straights, but if he's bluffing with like a flush draw, that's the only semi-bluff very often, then this is like, I think this is terrible. And more often than not, you will lose that one.
Afraid of diamonds. And the reason I'm not afraid of diamonds here is because Rex don't really have linear ranges.
He's not even blocking a diamond in his hand. I think that's just, he's just result oriented. He picked like a random hand, and this is just bad advice. So never listen to what he just advised you to do. I mean, it's okay if this is like a deuce in clubs, but in diamonds, I wouldn't let it go.
Their ranges contain all sorts of random hands. So when he shoves here, I'm not concerned with flushes. I already know that his range is full of garbage. Okay, so he shoves. I'm gonna call.
Yeah, in order to make this call, you have to assume that he's attacking this paired boards a lot, that he's also able to follow through, and that he's doing this bluff without any equity on the flop, and then follows through. And that's not the population tendency, especially not for the standard loose passive opponent.
And he shows up with king, queen of clubs. All right, first one, we got them. Next, we got pocket jacks on the big blind. This is one from 200 zoom. I'm gonna go ahead and 3-bet here. My opponent calls, and there comes an ace-7 3-board. I'm gonna go ahead and c-bet here, quite small. And then this is what they're gonna do. They're gonna click me again. So the guy clicks, and immediately after he clicks, I'm already putting on my mind that I'm going to call down in this spot. Okay, this is like, this is one thing leads to the other. When I see a click here, I'm just ready to call down. Turn comes a 6. He goes ahead and fires.
I think the correct term is like click it back and not he clicks. He's again getting good price, so yeah, call.
There's about 40% pot.
Looks standard so far.
The river comes the king. Again, a few people might be afraid of the king here. I'm not afraid of the king here.
The king does not change a lot. And the flush, you should still breed the flush draws and all the gut shots. Although not true. Yeah, some of them came in. 4-5 came in.
I don't care about what card comes. He's gonna shove, and I'm gonna call. And what he shows
This is not a shove, by the way.
up with Queen 10 offsuit. Now, this is the problem that a lot of regs have when it comes to playing against recreational players. They try to put recreational players on a range, on a reasonable range, on a logical range. But that doesn't work because they're going to show up with hands that they shouldn't have very, very often. So this guy here obviously shouldn't have Queen 10 off in the spot, but he does. Imagine what other hands he could show up here that he's not supposed to. He could have a hand like 9-8 offsuit. He could have a hand like Jack 9 offsuit. Okay, so don't make the mistake of trying to range recreational players. You're gonna leave a lot of money at the table if you do that. Next example, I got.
As I think he should like show his complete database with like click it backs on the flop and then bet bets. I think he probably will not do that well calling down always.
Pocket tens here. I limp from UTG. I'm not going to explain why I did this play on this video. Perhaps on a future video, if you're interested, let me know in the comments if you'd like to know why I play this strategy sometimes. But I limp, the recreational on the buttons.
Probably some very stupid idea, or maybe this is like a maniac 3-bets or raises everything and he wants to trap him.
Raises. I'm going to 3-bet here to play a large pot against him. And flop comes Jack 5-3. I bet small. What does he do? He clicks me. He clicks.
Yeah, small bets could induce things.
Clicks me, and you guys already know by now what's gonna happen in this hand. I call. Turn comes a king. You know, a lot of people might be, oh my god, it's an overcard. I don't care. I don't care that it's an overcard. I'm going to call this guy down, okay? I call. River comes an ace. Oh my god. River comes an ace. He jams. I don't care. I'm gonna call. He shows up with Queen 9 of diamonds, and we take down the pot. Now, another hand here. I got.
I mean, this one, you could even make a case for calling down, because he clicks back the flop, so you put him on a jack or something, and he continues on the king, so you must have king. Now he has to have king jack at least, so it does not make sense to continue that often. And after the ace rolls off, the line becomes even less credible.
He shows up with Queen 9 of diamonds, and we take.
So this is like the, I don't know. It's depending on the opponent, I think. Yeah. As I already said, the click it back line in my experience is often very strong.
Down the pot. Now, another hand here. I got pocket sixes on the small blind. Button opens. I 3-bet. He calls. Flop Jack 4-4. Go for a small quarter pot bet. Villain raises, and you guys already know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna call here, and I'm not going to fold. He bets about half pot on the turn. I call. River's a deuce. He jams, or close to jams. It leaves 150 behind. I go ahead and call. He's got the king 10 off. Nice. We take it. Last one. This one is from Bodog 1K. I 3-bet small blind. He calls. Flop ace 10-3. I go ahead, very small c-bet, quarter pot. Villain raises. You guys already know what's gonna happen. I call. He bets about half pot again on the turn. Recreationals do love a half pot bet. I call. River 9. He jams. I call. And guess what? He has the solid Queen 7 off. This is why you don't range recreational players, okay? This is 1KNL, and the guy's there punting Queen 7 off. So
yeah, you cannot put all recreationals in one bucket. Some are, or a lot of them are quite reasonable. But yeah, some are also like spewy idiots. We probably picked hands against spewy idiots only.
Don't make the mistake of trying to put recreational players on a range. Make sure you maximally exploit them.
So his advice is just call down recreational players because we bluff all the time. Is that what I get from this?
By clicking the call button on the river. Isn't that easy? Alright, this is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give it a like and also...
Okay, that wasn't the greatest video ever, but I hope you could extract some value from it. Nevertheless, thanks for watching. Yeah, until next time, bye-bye. Good luck at the tables, and yeah, like, subscribe, share, all the good things, obviously. Bye.